JT Williams, Avi Klein back up in here doing the recap for WWE Elimination Chamber.
But Jarrell, it doesn't matter because
well, nobody's listening.
Nobody's listening.
So we got about we got 30 minutes to talk about it. I mean,
yeah, sure. I want you to start off with your thoughts, and you know what? I think this is kind of neat too. You would thought it would actually started at a certain time, but it didn't, right? Is that what it was?
What, for me?
Yeah, I think we watched it live.
Yeah, because like a friend of mine, he had came over. We were talking, and it's weird. Like for some reason, I completely forgot. I completely forgot that the pay-per-view started at 7:00, and I don't know why I forgot that because
it happens to me too.
Yeah,
sometimes.
like every single pay-per-view for the last year and a half has started at 7:00, and I'm sitting here. It's like 7:10, and I'm just sitting here like, oh, the pre-show's on, and then it dawned on me like, wait, I'm missing the pay-per-view. So when I went to the network, like Sasha and Bailey had just got in the ring, but
they just got in. Yeah, so really quickly, Buddy Murphy and Murphy Tozawa. I was spoiled by the news I heard later because I didn't watch the show live, but I heard that Tozawa was on the way out. And I heard the news prior to watching the match, and then I realized, okay, there's no way he's beating Buddy Murphy, and that, of course, was the case. Didn't happen.
I actually thought he was like in our prediction video. I think I did pick.
Well, I don't blame you. You probably know he was on the way out. Yeah. So
well, it wasn't even just that, but because Hideo Itami had asked for his release, and they gave it to him.
But they gave it to him. But he still got the 215 live cruiserweight title.
Yeah, the 250. Is he still exactly 205 pounds?
So they say. He looks about 220, but whatever.
So but I missed that. But
no, not to Buddy. He's a big guy. I don't mean that in terms of mass. Well, in terms of muscle mass, not in terms of like fat. But yeah.
All right. Well,
I think the Disco Inferno was lighter as a cruiserweight champion. But this is something you were really interested to see how they would book. So the floor is yours. You get to you start watching the show once the entrances come out.
Yeah.
Give me any thoughts you had about the match from beginning, middle, end, whatever you'd like.
Well, I mean, like for starters, it sucks because I knew it's like, all right, let's be honest. Like we knew Naomi and Carmella weren't going to win because they were a makeshift tag team. Despite the fact that they wore matching outfits, it's like the Riot Squad are legitimately like they are considered a tag team. Tamina and Nia can be. It's the thing is they were the only every other team in that match. You can justify them being a legitimate tag team.
Except for Nia. So you think Nia and Tamina were more of a makeshift team?
No, they felt more like a real team because they were both.
They did.
Yeah, because they were both like big Samoan women. So and
plus they've been tagging for a while.
Yeah,
too.
And they've been tagging, so we've already been exposed to it. So.
The Riot Squad definitely sounded like a real team. The Iconics seemed like a real team. Nia and Tamina, good call, seemed like a real team.
Well, the Iconics have been a team since birth. So.
Since they stuffed Sasha and Bailey down our throats, they seem like a real team.
See, and that was another thing. Like I don't like that. Like I'm not because even when they won,
it's not organic. I agree.
Because even when they won, when when they were having their interview, the tears were genuine. Like the emotion was genuine. I can and it's true what they say because wrestlers talk about this all the time about how they try to get things done in the back and nobody wants to listen to them and they can never get things off the ground. When Sasha said to the audience, "You guys honestly don't know how hard we fought to make this happen," I believed her. But the problem is. I don't want. It was like I appreciate them. The work that they put into it. I'm overjoyed over the fact that they wanted something, they pitched something, and it actually finally came through for them. But I'm like, but let's be honest. The two of you actually don't want to really be tag team champions.
Yeah, and I think what's funny. Maybe it's because I'm reading too much into it. Because when you're watching the weeklies and following the storylines or lack thereof, you can't help but be I guess sort of absorbed by everything. Part of me didn't buy their post-title victory speech, and it's not because they were at a loss. They weren't at a loss for words because they were emotional. It almost seemed like they were at a loss for words because they were both thinking to themselves, "These aren't the belts we want to be holding."
Well, that's how I feel about it. Like
I do too. I do too. Yeah.
I believe.
It's a good point you made.
I'm the one who actually did believe them, but I was still in the camp of. there was a part of them that was also like, well, damn, now I have to be in a tag team for the next X amount of months.
Yeah, it seemed a bit contrived. Yeah, I definitely didn't feel the emotion as much. So
because I'm pretty sure if Vince, Stephanie, Shane, or Triple H came up to them and said, hey, listen, we're going to take you guys out of singles competition and we want you to be the flag bearers for the women's tag team division for the rest of your career, they're going to look at him like he's crazy.
You know, I gotta say though, you're right about that because we know they're not going to be long term. They're not going to be a long term tag team, most likely.
No.
But in terms of the match itself and how it was sculpted, I gotta say the women worked hard.
Yeah.
All of them seemed to work really hard.
Yeah.
They all seemed genuinely invested in the match itself.
Well,
if the result leads to, obviously, the good thing about Sasha and Bayley becoming champions is that we kind of know, much like the whole Miz and Shane thing going on, it's not going to last.
Yeah, of course.
So then, moving forward, it generates some excitement as to which team is going to knock them off their throne, and probably pretty soon at it as well. If I had to ask you to pick a team that you think would actually be their successors currently, who do you think it would be?
To be honest, I feel like they're going to have Sasha and Bayley fight the Bella Twins at WrestleMania. I think they're going to fight Tamina and Nia at Fastlane. But they're going to beat the Bella Twins at Mania. I mean,
it's a good call.
My prediction is is a selfish one and a personal one.
I love that you're never biased because we both know that it's not like your preference is the Bellas being there.
It's like that's just what I see happening. But I think eventually the Iconics will take the belts off them. And
now that the whole Ambrose thing and the Nia Jax little microscopic feud that won't come to fruition is the case, maybe Nia and Tamina moving forward will be more of a legit tag team that stays together longer. Maybe if they don't go with the Bellas, possibly. I don't necessarily feel, because you know what I just thought about this, because they're showcasing the tag titles and making it seem like a big deal for the women, which it is. Why not? I mean, you want to give them a little bit more to do as far as not just having feuds just for singles titles. I think because they're going to highlight the tag belts, we probably are going to see a multi-woman tag team title match at Mania.
I was thinking the same thing. Like it might be like a triple threat. If it's not the Bellas, it'll be like a triple threat tag match.
Yeah, 4-way, 3-way, something like that. Yeah.
And
like I told you, anytime you get hot chicks involved in the 3 or 4-way, I can't say no to that. So.
but I agree. Like the match was good. I mean, to me, the Iconics stole the show. With their antics, their double pin on Naomi, the fact that when
and even how they got pinned.
Yeah, how they got pinned.
I don't like their work. Again, from a technical standpoint, no, but they are so spot on with who they are in the ring.
Yes, like their characters, like it hides their wrestling flaws.
Yeah, it does. Because it really, really does. And that's a rare quality to have.
Yeah, because you find yourself more into their antics than
sure.
than their. Because like I said, because when Nia and Tamina were walking through the pods, and they were walking past everybody, and then the Iconics were kind of like laughing at them and pointing. When Nia Jax slammed the pod and both of them jumped, like I started cracking up.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned it the other day. Like that's, I looked, when you brought it up the other day, I didn't remember it, so I went back and looked at it, and that was pretty fucking funny. Because for me, it was the first time I noticed it because you brought it up.
Yeah.
And then when they got Samoa dropped and pinned, right before they actually got pinned, right before they got Samoa dropped by both girls, they actually looked at each other and said, "I'm sorry."
Yeah,
When have you seen that in any match?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like the two.
The last time I saw anyone say "I'm sorry" was Shawn Michaels before he super kicked.
But that's what I'm saying. But that's why I'm like, if anybody deserves, then the next women's tag champ should be the Iconics. I mean, even them hiding in the pod, so they don't, like when they ran back in the pod when when Tamina and I were beating her, it's just like you want to talk about like chicken shit heels. It's like that's the gold standard. That they're like the gold standard. But what
I agree.
What came after that?
Question before we even go on to the next one. I know we don't have a ton of time, but I just want to have. I got to ask you one more question about the chamber women match that we saw.
Yeah.
What was there an elimination? And since we're running low on time, was there one elimination that was either misplaced in your opinion or should have happened at all?
Not really. I mean, if I to be honest, I can't really say that because if they're still going with the whole Naomi versus Mandy Rose thing, then I guess it does make sense. If see, but then that was stupid because Mandy Rose didn't get the pin on Naomi, so it was weird. It was weird because the Iconics were the ones that eliminated Naomi. So
maybe they're trying to keep it fresh in a one-on-one perspective.
No, but
not have one go over the other, maybe.
Yeah, but they've been going over each other on SmackDown Live, so you know, and that hasn't stopped the feud. So I
mean, actually, there's two schools of thought. One is you don't want to have in a tag team title chamber match one go over the other, but the other school of thought is it's a perfect time to do it because there's a lot of this pretty much no rules, no DQs.
Yeah.
You can have your partner kind of interfere and kind of like be the person who helps get her eliminated. There are different ways to keep heat going on.
Yeah.
But their kind of one-on-one scuffle was, I said this to you the other day, it was realistic. And as hard as Naomi in the ring, I actually thought that she was fluid during her brief time in the ring. I really did. I can't knock anything she did.
Yeah, no, it was a good match.
I'm saying that on the air.
Yeah. So you know it's real. But like, you can't knock. I mean, it was a good match.
No,
I mean,
definitely.
I did think the men's chamber was better, but that's mostly because of the Kofi aspect of it.
Yeah, and again, last thing about the women's chamber, then we'll just keep going.
Yeah.
But 35 minutes was a damn good time to give them, I think.
Yeah.
They didn't shortchange them at all. So moving forward, so a little bit interesting. I didn't expect this, but a tag title match followed a tag title match.
Good point.
Miz against the Usos.
Yeah, I'm not a. Did you watch? No, you didn't watch SmackDown. You didn't watch yesterday's SmackDown.
Not yet. No.
Yeah, I mean,
I will.
I mean, I'm a fan of the Usos. Like, I'm happy for the Usos. I'm glad the Usos.
Yeah.
I'm glad the Usos won the title. But
yeah,
if we're doing this Miz versus Shane thing at Mania, I kind of wish, especially when you finally do watch SmackDown, when you watch when you watch SmackDown Live, you're gonna sit there and say to yourself, you should have just dragged this out till Fastlane.
Right.
So, but and even like the way the match ended was kind of like anticlimactic for me because there was no like interference, there were no problems. He basically just got a roll up.
Do you think that was more refreshing because it was original, and we always as fans asked for more unpredictable finishes? Do you feel like that kind of brought a nice element to the match?
No, because
where Miz was outshined without chicanery.
I mean, here's the problem with that though. Yes, you do want to be surprised. You do want shocking results. But if I already know how the story ends, nothing you do will be a surprise. Yeah.
a
So
good way of looking at it, sure.
So to me, it was just like I didn't care about the finish because I was just like, if anything, I was surprised the Usos beat them this early. But
and we did preferences and predictions in our in one of our previous shows, and we talked about the difference between the two. Obviously, I can't say I was disappointed because my preference was seeing the Usos win.
Yeah.
It just the way I look at it is, and this is, I think it's a good way of looking at it. I'm not a champagne drinker. I don't drink alcohol, neither do you. But when you uncork a champagne bottle and you're celebrating, you have to let it flow. You don't put the cork back in when it starts overflowing. And that's how I kind of like. That's the analogy I have regarding Usos. They're so hot and they've been on a roll. And I know we said this the other day, but somebody had mentioned to me, well, I like what they're doing now. I want to do one better. Just because they haven't been prominently pushed the last 5 months doesn't mean that they haven't been doing well. It's a start-stop motion that the company's been pushing with the Usos, where it's, one moment they get that full 90-mile-per-hour push, then they kind of put the brakes on it. So I don't necessarily think the Usos did anything to warrant that.
Yeah.
Even though they've both been arrested on 2 separate occasions in the last year, which is kind of funny. I think they've been hot and maintained themselves. It's just a matter of SmackDown sometimes being a bit frustrating, where they're hot and cold when they don't need to be with certain teams or even singles wrestlers. Yeah. So the Usos, on a preference level, glad they won. I kind of see what you're saying about it being anticlimactic, but I feel like, in a way, it made sense from a storyline standpoint moving forward if Shane is the guy who's going to be perceived as a person who took more chances, whereas Miz, who's a full-time wrestler, got beat with a roll-up.
Yeah. Well, again,
so it kind of adds a little degree of realism in terms. And by the way, I actually like their post reaction. Here's why.
Mm-hmm.
Shane did a damn good job of selling how disappointed he was, because he then brought it back to more of a environment where he wanted to kind of show people who are watching that he's not necessarily mad at The Miz,
mm-hmm.
and he's more disappointed and frustrated. And there's a big difference between disappointed and upset.
Yes.
You could be upset at somebody and disappointed at them and have that be two separate things. He was disappointed, but he wouldn't let that disappointment just turn into a complete nonsensical heel turn.
Yeah, there's no. Well, you'll understand a little bit more when you watch SmackDown Live.
Yeah, I guess I'll shut up because I don't watch SmackDown.
But
let's talk about the match itself before we move on. Did you like the dichotomy of the match? Was it? When I say dichotomy of the match, did you like the actual exchanges? Do you feel like Shane was in the ring at the opportune times he should have been? Because for the most part, Miz controlled the action.
Yeah. Shane comes in and does what Shane does.
Right.
Like he does his Tyrannosaurus punches.
Yes, he does.
he does his shuffle, and then
he's in the Hall of Shame of punches along with Rob Van Dam and Mick Foley.
And then he comes off. Then he comes off the top rope with the elbow or the Van Terminator or whatever. So.
And then there's slick production team, and I can't blame the guy. I mean, I can't do what he does, but he did miss by a few inches. I'm not going to make a big deal of it because, we can't nitpick everything. But their camera team is their tech team is so great that they didn't shoot it from that angle when they replayed it. They gave us a different take. They obviously didn't want to see a bit of the flub that he made, but again, in terms of impact, it made its point. And actually, if he did miss a little bit, it would sell as to why he didn't get back up.
Yeah, because he was down on the floor. It was so funny that when they won the belts, Jey Uso didn't even realize that they won the titles.
Yes, that's right. I think Jimmy went right over them and
he was pulling him over, and then he just heard their music play, and he just looked at him like, "Yo, bro."
It wasn't the first time he was pulled over.
Oh wow.
Be honest.
Welcome to the real life penitentiary.
Yeah, they had to. They both were. Hey, maybe that inspired. Who was the first one who got arrested? Jay.
Yeah, Jay was the first one.
Hey, that could be a case of art imitating life. But moving on, we had Braun Strowman and Baron Corbin, which on paper did not excite anyone.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't watch the match because I didn't watch the match until the end because one, I honestly flat out didn't care. Although I did pick Baron Corbin and Baron Corbin did win, but because when I started the pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I had missed the beginning of the women's match. I rewound because when you have the network, you can rewind stuff. I rewound it to the beginning so I can watch the pay per view from the beginning. And then when I got to the Strowman to the Strowman Corbin fight, then I just fast forwarded again to the live, to where they were live. And when I got to where they were live, that's when McIntyre and Lashley showed up and just beat them down. So
that's why I think with the added stipulation of the no DQ rule, mm-hmm. It made it watchable.
Yeah. But
it just seems like the WWE sometimes, and they can be a bit stubborn where if they plug you into a storyline, but your injury gets in the way, when you come back, by God, they'll keep that storyline going. And when Braun Strowman was hurt in December, mm-hmm. TLC was the match that, of course, he didn't have officially he had the match, but he didn't really have the match because he was injured at TLC against Baron Corbin, and other people had to come and help him. But had Braun Strowman not got hurt and actually wrestled Baron Corbin at TLC, mm-hmm. we probably wouldn't see this match.
Yeah, true.
At Elimination Chamber.
True.
They were insistent on giving us this match, and someone in the back just loved the idea of it so much that they waited till Strowman was fully healthy,
mm-hmm.
and they booked the match when he was.
Yeah.
By then, the momentum and the interest, if there was any, to begin with, completely dissipated. So I wasn't. I'm in the camp of Jarrell T over here. Not interested. Wasn't interested. Nothing you could have done would have made me interested. And I don't. And this alliance of Lashley, McIntyre, and Corbin doesn't exactly interest me.
I mean, the weird thing about their alliance is I just don't get it. It's not so much that I'm against it. I just don't understand.
Yeah, isn't Corbin fired already?
Yeah.
What the hell did Lashley McIntyre get out of it?
Well, he's
not the GM anymore.
That's what I'm saying. So unless Lashley and Drew,
unless they're really loyal guys and appreciate what he did for them.
No, which
by the way would make them good faces, right?
Yeah, right. But
like, don't worry, dog, you got fired, we got your back.
Yeah, but unless the three of them are teaming up. unless the three of them are teaming up to jump Brock Lesnar the way they're jumping Braun Strowman because they want to shout at the title.
It's insane. I know.
Yeah, like
I know.
I don't get it, and I'm a Lashley fan, so it's like I'm kind of I'm like it scares me.
No, it's great that you say that because I know you are. I am as well, and then you bring up a damn good point. It's like if you're not going to have him win the Rumble or not going to have him win the title, and eventually you are going to have to make the switch, whether it's a surprise or whether we kind of see coming. When Strowman does win the title, these jobs are a bit unnecessary. I agree. Yeah. Kind of makes no sense.
And and just like I said to you yesterday, despite me being a Bobby Lashley fan, I actually don't have a problem with the fact that he lost the Intercontinental Championship.
No, and we're getting into that. The handicap IC title match between Lashley and... Well, wait a minute. Was that the third match? I believe it.
Yeah, that was before the Strowman match. But I
think it was before the Strowman match.
Yeah, it was Lashley and Lio Rush, versus Finn Balor, and and it was funny because like whenever Lashley was in the ring, like he was dominant, he was whipping some behind, and then when Rush kept coming in, he was getting beat up, which was why it was so. See, but this is the small part where logic, like they missed me with the so-called logic because. If you're Lio Rush, why would you tag yourself in?
Yeah, it makes absolutely no sense. You could argue that in the heat of the moment, he wants to get the glory. My thing is, I agree with you about Lashley because moving forward, as a credible person that can challenge Brock Lesnar, whether it's for the Universal title or down the road just in a one-on-one grudge match, there is no one on the roster, including an aging Kurt Angle. There's no one on the roster that would intimidate Brock or give us the ability to suspend disbelief very quick, other than Bobby Lashley. He's the one guy who can look at Brock Lesnar eye to eye without a manager, and when Brock stares back at him, you got to believe that the sense of this is on is exactly what would happen when those two face each other. So for that to happen, Lashley would have to shed his IC title.
Yeah, of course.
And he shed it in a way in which he didn't get pinned. So I kind of feel like the company's high up on maybe this.
Yeah, you feel like
the possibility of this match even happening. So to be honest, we'll talk about the Kofi thing that was, the way they handled it well at Chamber in a minute. But I really like the way they did it with Lashley as well. I mean, you give the guy, you book the guy to win the IC title, but then you keep him strong by not having a job it. Of course, at the Rumble, he gets eliminated in 8 seconds, which, was, again, that 50-50 booking that we hate. But at least they made up for it by not having him have the job. To lose the IC title because he's one guy who shouldn't be doing a lot of jobs.
Yeah, it almost felt like for the first time they're actually protecting him. Yeah, and like you said, the hope is that they're protecting him because they're trying to like put him in the Lesnar category if Seth Rollins' injury turns out to be something serious.
Were you okay with the turn happening at post match when Lashley turned on Rush?
I mean, I wish it would have dragged out a little bit longer. Like I would have liked to see them together a little bit longer, but I also do think that they need Lio Rush on 205 Live full time. So
yeah,
but
that's a good point. Actually, I didn't think about that.
But again, it's one of those things where
that's a good point.
It's one of those things where I have no idea what they're doing because because like if they keep him if he forgives them and they keep him and Rush together, then it's just like, well, what the heck was the point of that? And then if he never
I mean, if they're thinking that Lashley will take Rollins' spot at Mania.
Yeah.
I would say they're probably wrong because Rollins, I was going to say he's not the type to get injured. He's the type to injure people.
Yeah.
He got it twisted. But then again, he did get injured for about 9 months when he was the champ. I don't know. Is he a backup? Is he sort of just insurance in case Rollins doesn't make it to Mania? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah,
although I will say that even if it doesn't take place at Mania, I feel like the company does feel confident in the Lashley-Lesnar confrontation happening at some point in 2000.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, like they're sniffing it, they're looking into it. So
I think so.
Yeah.
What other crap was served after that?
Oh, that was the. It's funny you say that. That was the women's championship match. And there's
moving on to the men's chamber. So we had 6 competitors. I
mean, because it's not really much to say that like they did Ruby Riott dirty, and the whole point of that was just so Becky Lynch can beat up Charlotte Flair with a crutch.
I agree, but I liked it because when I made my predictions, when Stefan was on the line with us, we made our predictions for Chamber. I actually said that, Ronda Rousey has got to mow through the competition. If she's the T-Rex that gets taken down at Mania because she's going to take time off, then that T-Rex has to mow everyone in their path until she actually gets conquered at Mania. So I think a decisive 1-minute victory over Ruby Riott was necessary. I'm going to nitpick. I know it's annoying for us to nitpick as fans because I like Ruby Riott. I think she has a lot to offer. Would I have preferred it to be somebody else? yes. And I asked you, I was combing through the roster, but I drew a blank. And then I said to myself, well, I wouldn't mind seeing somebody else get offered on a silver plate, but just not Ruby Riott because she's young. They're trying to push her. And then you came up with an alternative. Who was your alternative if you had to have Ronda Rousey move through somebody in about a minute?
No, I said Alicia Fox only because...
Explain why.
Because, you can't use... You can't use Lacey Evans because she just got there, and even with and then it's like why would Lacey Evans?
Even Lacey Evans didn't like the pay-per-view. She came out for 2 seconds and then turned around and left.
and then what's
she goes, I don't want to be a part of this. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
what's the crazy chick? The crazy chick.
Nikki Cross.
Yeah, Nikki Cross. And it's like, and then it's like, what is Nikki Cross? What's Nikki Cross done to deserve a title shot? So like she just got there. Maybe you could have.
So you're eliminating her as being someone who would have been squashed.
Yeah,
So it's almost a process of elimination. I would have even said Dana Brooke, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but nobody would have. I mean, but we've seen that. But then it's like, but you can't also.
Because Alicia Fox, it would have been predictable that she would do the job. Mm-hmm. But if Dana Brooke stepped up to Ronda Rousey, in a way where, okay, look, I'm big, I'm strong, I'm a gymnast, I'm a former bodybuilder, a former gymnast, I could take you on. I'm not saying it would have been more credible, but because of the way they're portraying Alicia Fox as just a female Santino, a joke, we would have known a squash would be coming.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I'm not into the whole Ruby Riott squash. Does it hurt her ultimately? Not really, because I feel like if anyone does the JOB to Ronda Rousey these days, can come back and say, well, wait a minute, I did the JOB to one of the toughest women ever.
Yeah, they won't hold that against them.
It won't hurt her, yeah. But I mean, I'm more focusing on Ronda. I think it was done well in the sense that you got to make her look really, really strong before Mania, especially when you consider the fact that Asuka didn't defend her title at Chamber.
Yeah, of course. I do like the fact that Ronda did get whooped with the cane.
Yeah. Did you like the post-match altercation that took place with Lynch, Charlotte, and Rousey, or was it your cup of tea?
No, actually, I did like that because, like you said, in the ring, they're keeping Ronda strong. They're making her look like a monster. But it was nice to see that although they're making her look like an unstoppable force, they can also still make her look vulnerable at the same time.
Right.
It's like she beat Ruby Riott in 13 seconds, but then she just got whooped on by a one-legged by a one-legged Irish girl.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I felt like again they're trying to keep the heat on all three, and since they're now committing fully to Charlotte being a heel, then I guess it makes sense that if anyone looks like the biggest loser of the three, Charlotte, but because she's playing a natural heel. I get it. They're trying to really keep like the dominant, badass personas of Rousey and Lynch intact.
Yeah, of course.
So they did. If that's what they were looking for, the way they shot the angle, it served its purpose, and at least Charlotte looked like the loser.
Yeah.
Because she thrives in that role, being a heel who
she's actually
who's overly confident for her own good.
Yep. Because for all her accolades of being genetically superior, she actually has been playing the coward. She's almost like playing like the rich spoiled brat, which is
and she's so good at it. I mean, it's like now I like that they've moved the pieces where certain people who should have been heels or faces are playing the roles that I think they thrive in more. I mean. We talked about Dean Ambrose. I mean, obviously, and we'll talk about that later. It's probably, I still think it's a storyline. I don't think he's really fired. I think it's just bullshit. Getting to the main event, which wasn't bullshit, unless you want to look at the last 3 seconds.
No, I mean, there's really not much to say about the Chamber match itself. I mean,
before we get to the last two competitors, anything impress you, or did anyone impress you in that ring?
Not really, because
other than the last
because Jeff Hardy's hurt, so his participation was going to be a minimum. For some reason, like they don't believe it's Samoa Joe like that. So when Joe
still lasted longer than Samoa Joe, for crying out loud.
Yeah, so like the way they've been treating Joe, like I didn't expect anything different.
I think they don't understand. We talked about how with Ruby Riott, it doesn't hurt her to get pinned by a T-Rex like Ronda. Yeah, but when you're Samoa Joe and you're a male T-Rex, and you they don't understand. There's certain heels that when they lose in job really quickly or in embarrassing fashion, doesn't hurt them. When you're Samoa Joe and you're on the stick and you're on the mic, you're talking about how dominant you are. And as fans, we know that your character and persona has been a dominant man-eater who will destroy everyone in his path. You're this war machine that can't be stopped. We've seen that.
Yeah.
But when you're talking the talk, as well as he is on the mic, by the way, and then isn't delivering, it's killing his character.
Yeah.
The same way that, essentially killed Bray Wyatt.
Which is true, because it's like at some point the Eater of Worlds has to get a victory.
Right. I mean, he claims to be the Eater of Worlds, but when he walks out, we don't see it. Like, the way he's jobbed in the last couple of years before they ultimately took him off TV, Bray Wyatt should have weighed about $150.
Yeah.
He should have been anorexic because there's no worlds that he ate in the last 2 years.
He's just been. That's why they
called him. He came out looking at least 150, not 350.
They used to call him the Eater of Pins after a while.
Well, yeah, Rock called him a lot of other things too.
No, but
that's a good way of crapping on a couple of young guys who are trying to get over. Get the best stick man in the world and have him come there. But I mean, I digress. But I'm like with Samoa Joe. So that's my beef. And when I asked you, was there anything that stuck out prior to the last two guys? For me, it was just again the complete annihilation of Samoa Joe. Where you don't have to put the strap on the guy. Fine, you don't have to have the guy be part of the final two. AJ Styles is still red hot, and his fan support is going to be there no matter what, and so is Jeff Hardy's. But Samoa Joe kind of needed a bit of a push in that match. He didn't need to be the first guy getting eliminated.
Yeah.
He just didn't. I mean, this is a guy that hasn't even wrestled a WrestleMania match yet. Just last month he wrestled in his first Rumble match. This is not a guy that needed to go out like that because it was it just contradicts his whole character. And again, I feel like if Samoa Joe does a job to anybody in the next few months, it won't be that much of a shock. But a few months ago, we were at a place and we were at a time where if that happened, and it did, it shocked us. No longer, because now we don't see him as a threat anymore. But your opinion, I'm sorry.
No, that was, I mean, like I said, everything you said was spot on. I mean, I knew that was going to, when I saw he was first, when I saw he was one of the first two to start the chamber, I was just like, all right, I'm over that. I was more surprised that AJ Styles got pinned third, because when AJ Styles got pinned third and it came down to Brian Orton and Kofi, that's when I started having believing. I want
to leave the floor to you because at another time I'm going to talk about Kofi and Daniel Bryan. But since we have a couple of minutes, as I saw before 6, the clocks can hit 6 soon. I want to get your uninterrupted thoughts. I want to stay quiet about the conclusion of the match.
Well, like I said, I mean, when he lost, that broke my heart because. And I said it to you before, I hated the fact that they got me invested into him possibly winning. Because going into it, I was just I wanted him to win, but I knew they weren't going to pull the trigger. But when he pinned Orton and it came down to him and Bryan, I was just holy shit, he might actually pull this off. When Bryan went for the first knee and he hit him with the Trouble in Paradise, I actually jumped off the couch, when he kicked out. And,
right.
To be honest, I'm happy that the fans are behind him and Vince is listening to the fans, at least in that Vince is listening to the fans, at least in that regard, because for the first time in a long time, WWE did a good job of actually getting me emotionally invested into believing that someone can do it. So when he lost, you can literally hear all the air being sucked out of the room, and me being one of them. Like I said, that shit that hurt. That shit, and then to see him sit on the steps when it was over, and then have Woods and Big E come out, and it was nice that the fans gave him the thank you Kofi, and the fans. But it was just I've been a Kofi Kingston fan for a long time, so
yep.
A lot of people will just be oh, it's great. People.
I thoroughly like the fact that when you and I, way before we started this podcast, we've been genuine fans and clamoring for his push. So. Yeah. How can we not gravitate and get sucked in, whether consciously or subconsciously, into mere moments of victory? When we actually see Kofi taking Bryan to the limit, when we see the fan reaction, when we see how the show closed, and again, regardless, I have to say there aren't too many times where we see the guy who didn't win close out the show.
True. This is
Unless we go to the network or you want to just watch some old school WWF. Back when they were called WWF, pay-per-views, and Hulk Hogan would have to find his way in the ring somehow to pose, even if he lost. So it was kind of neat to see the little tribute to Kofi. But moving forward, again, like I said about Lashley, are they finally going to pull the trigger with Kofi? I don't know. I don't want to talk about it because I didn't watch SmackDown yet. You have. But sticking strictly to the pay-per-view itself, my thoughts on it were that I think Kofi Kingston already proved himself way before his 1-hour marathon on SmackDown 3 nights or 4 nights before the pay-per-view. without a doubt. But I still liked the fact that they could have completely shitted on what he did on SmackDown, the reception he got, and they could have had him be penciled in as the first or second guy getting eliminated at the Chamber.
So they get respect.
So the fact that they gave him that extended push and they let Bryan and Kofi go for a solid 12, 15 minutes alone, I couldn't ask for anything more. And if it obviously didn't happen at the Chamber, but I would be both shocked and very, very upset and very, very, very disappointed. To the point where I may pull a Carmine, who's one of our guests, always on the podcast. I may pull a Carmine and actually go on a WWE hunger strike and not watch their programming.
Yeah, if Kofi doesn't win between now
and by April I don't see him as champion, I might. I mean,
I'll be right there.
Those are big words, I know, but the point I'm getting across is this is bigger than just a pro wrestler, and this is bigger than just it's even bigger than social indifference. What it is doing the right thing for a guy who's been in the company for 11 years uninterrupted, has had fan support, and has really hit on. He checks everything. If you want to look at all the qualifications of what a champion should be, which is being able to talk on the mic, playing a heel or a face effectively, which he proved in his short stint as a heel that he could do as well. Putting on 5-star matches, barely getting injured. Kofi literally checks all the bubbles. He checks every bubble.
Don't forget selling that merch.
Of course, which is the biggest part of being a champ, is selling merch. So I would be disappointed if he ultimately by April doesn't become the champion. So I'm going to reserve what I feel about the end of the match until I see moving forward what happens or doesn't happen with Kofi.
Yeah, makes sense.
But I have to say that I was genuinely happy with the fact that the crowd was happy with what they were seeing in terms of Kofi's push and the way they closed the show.
Yeah. I mean, overall,
I just hope it wasn't a way where, okay, Kofi, we respect you. You'll never be the champion. So here's your 5 minutes.
Exactly. It's almost like that was his retirement match, right?
Yeah, we have to look deeper than what just happened. I mean, ultimately, a year from now, if we sit back and go, hey, remember the time they gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award and just applauded him post-show even though he lost?
Exactly.
If it's one of those situations, I won't be happy.
Yeah, exactly. But overall, I give the show a 7.5 overall because I like both chamber matches, and I was surprised that the tag, like the men's tag and the IC title, like when you get title changes when you didn't think you were going to get title changes, that's not necessarily a bad thing either. So because of the title change,
I agree.
Yeah, so like between like the 2 surprise title changes, Ronda actually getting whipped on by the crutches, and then both chamber matches.
Champions.
Yeah, new champions and like both chamber matches. Like I said, like for me, like I give the show like a solid 7.5. Because I'm
usually critical, but I give it a solid 7 because not far from your 7.5. Because I think the best way for me to rate a show is when I go into it and have not many high hopes or expectations. By the way, since it's our Nobody's Listening podcast, that was me flushing the toilet. For me to close out this portion, I'll let you close it out entirely, but for me to close out this portion, I give it a 7 because going into it, I had no expectations whatsoever, and it surprisingly exceeded those expectations from a work rate standpoint, from a logical standpoint to the most part, and for keeping me entertained for 3 hours, and maybe that's another plus, is that it didn't go 4 hours. The show clocked in at only 3 hours and 10 minutes, I think.
Yeah. So anytime you can go to bed early, that's always a good thing.
So I'm signing out. I'd like you to close it out, my friend.
All right, cool. Yeah, so that was it. That was our Elimination Chamber review. So, definitely check us out. Give us a like and a subscribe, and we'll be back with more content. And until next time, this is Jay Williams for Avi Klein, and we're out.